My name's Rick Hill. I've been doing this for about 20 years, working in the woodworking business. And what we do as reps is we have been independent reps selling to the woodworking market. We also run a business called woodreps.com, which you can look at after the presentation, and you can also contact me at that website anytime if you need help. To start off, what we're going to talk about first is that if everyone wants to eat, someone has to sell. And that's a quote at a company called Custom Hardware that Frank Rasmussen has on his wall that I just love, because as woodworkers, we often forget that we can make great product, but we still have to get out there and promote it and get it started. So one of the things we want to talk about on woodworking in getting things going as we look at building word of mouth is we have to be memorable. We have to find a way that people remember us, because we want them not only to refer us, but to refer us, they have to remember us. So you have to decide what your unique strength is. And to decide that, you really can look at three ways of your company. You either can have a unique strength in promotional items, like your showroom or vignettes that you do, your product, like your green or solid wood or whatever you're promoting, or your performance, maybe in the speed of your install or cleaning up afterwards or something like that. So the three P's of your unique strength: promotional, product, or performance. You have to think about, is whatever that unique strength is it repeatable? So either a product or a service, can you deliver it each time? Can you make this happen? So if it's custom woodworking, whatever you've done for this person, can you create that kind of beauty again if need be? The unique strength that you're looking for must be in the customer's eyes, not yours. So if you've got a CNC router, that's important to your manufacturing, or if you've done lean to go faster, that's great, but that doesn't mean anything to the customer. The next thing to think about is, what is your advantage? Do you have the largest showroom in the market? Do you do daily cleanup? Are you spraying green finishes, that type of thing? So those are the advantages you can use to look at your unique strengths. Remember, we're trying to find this strength because we want to make something memorable that people can remember as they try to refer us on. What problem is solved? When you look at what problem is solved, I usually look at like the Dutch boy paint containers that are out there right now. So let's look at paint cans. For years have always been a can that you have to pry open with a screwdriver and pour the paint out. Dutch boy came out with the plastic cans of paint that have a handle on them and a lid that you can unscrew. When I recently was out shopping for paint, my wife preferred the Dutch boy paint, even though it's more expensive, just because of the can. So see, their unique strength is they've solved a problem. So when you look at those strengths, like quick installs, let's say, then you want to come up with a sentence that makes sense for these people, something that they can remember you by. We want to create that memorable sentence from our unique strength. For example, I have a customer in the past that made installs for people within 2 days of order. He had all kinds of cabinets on the shelves, and when a builder needed something done fast, he did it fast. If they called him today, within 2 days he could have those cabinets installed. So he called himself the FedEx of cabinets. Now that created a picture in people's minds. It gave him a sentence that he could say and something that they could remember to refer him on with. So when you look at that, you want to remember that you've got about 30 seconds after you tell them what you do, your FedEx of cabinets or so. You've got about 30 seconds to get those people to remember you, and you want to do that in a memory. People don't remember measurements or discussions. They remember pictures. So you want to create pictures for people. So he could have said, instead of we're the FedEx of cabinets, he could have said we pre-assemble to expedite installs, but that doesn't create a memory. So think about how you describe what you do. When people say, well, what do? You say, I'm a woodworker. Well, what does that mean? Do you make whirligigs and windmills? What do you make? So create something that you can use, that they can remember, so you make a picture for them. I also want to just talk a bit about building your word of mouth here. Referrals are 3 times more likely to buy. So if you're 3 times more likely to buy from a referral, we want to get as many referrals as possible. We want to be in their space where they spend their time. We don't want to be in their face where they're advertising everything and you're trying to thrust billboards at them or that kind of stuff. We want to be in the places where they are trusted. An example of some of those referrals, you can build referrals from being associated with a good source. Like there's a company called Creative Cabinetry in New London, Wisconsin. And Steve at Creative Cabinetry has recently done a restoration of a Frank Lloyd Wright home. So with Steve doing that, he's been able to associate himself with someone famous, and it shows quality. So that's one way to get referrals. Bill, if you're there too, feel free to jump in anytime if anybody has any questions or any polling questions we wanted to get in too.
Sure. Folks can type in questions on their screen and then we'll address them at the end.
Okay. We also wanted to talk about buyer's open house is another way that you can go ahead and use something to refer people on or build word of mouth. That's a buyer's cabinet in La Crosse, Wisconsin here had an open house a while back, and that open house was used to educate people. So instead of selling them on, you must buy my product, they brought those people in so people could see them, people could see their plant, meet their workers, and they educated the local people on what they did and how. They, of course, had free food, that type of thing, but that open house brings in that same idea of building word of mouth by creating and educating, not selling. Lastly there, you want to promote your strength. Remember, we have a unique strength throughout any of these efforts. You want to give that unique strength and promote that to your folks. We try to establish branding also by having this unique strength, getting people to refer you. Remember that people refer companies that they trust, people they've worked with before, people they've heard about. We see a lot of social media work out there, Facebook, Angie's List, that kind of thing. All of those are done to help people build trust so that you have some kind of record of how well you've done as a business and other people are talking about you. You want to be active in all those things, but the real power comes from word of mouth, person to person, saying something about who you are. So if I had a problem getting my cabinets installed and I was able to say, geez, I just can't get this done in time, someone might remember, hey, I know a guy, he used to FedEx the cabinets. So if they've worked with him before, they're going to remember that sentence and they're going to refer him on to me. The other way to build word of mouth business is to stay in touch. People forget often. They do they might have used you a year ago or 2 years ago, so you want to stay in touch with them, and there's all kinds of ways to do that. Again, Facebook, Twitter, all the social media events, but it can be as basic as something as a postcard. We have a local guy in our area that sends out a postcard every 2-3 months just talking about some things that he's doing. He creates events. He has a garden tour near his plant and his shop. So remember that as you do that, you want to keep people in touch with what you're doing, but you don't want to talk about what you're doing. You want to talk about what they're interested in, if that makes sense to you. So you could talk about different types of woods that are green that are coming into the market. You could educate them instead of selling them. But if you send them a newsletter every month talking about your employees' birthdays, they're just going to throw it away. So whatever you send them has to be relevant to them. One of the ideas of that is, of course, using people that you might have seen a person that's a realtor talking about how to buy a house, that type of thing, again, educating. The next thing is to qualify and move on. If the people aren't the right customer type for you, or the right income level, it's the right project, qualify that with them and move on. You don't need to try to sell everybody everything. I've got a lot of people that have worked with thank yous also after a job is done. Make sure after you've worked for someone, you want to get them to remember you, send them a handwritten thank you. Don't do it via email. I strongly suggest you do it handwritten. And the reason that's important is that no one does it. You can't even get a thank you out of your nephew for the wedding present. But if you can get a thank you into them in the mail, it's a great way to do something with this.
Rich, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's popping up here from a couple of the chats. Are there any telltale signs that a person that you're calling on is qualified? Like, is there, sometimes people will politely listen, but they're not really interested. How can you tell?
I think part of that comes from qualifying questions. It's not rude to say to people, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're looking at my showroom, whatever. Thanks for coming in. Are you looking at a project right now? When are you thinking of that? Trying to nail them down instead of just letting them say, no, just looking, that kind of thing. Trying to nail them down into, are they really looking or are they not? So your qualifying questions are the biggest thing. Sitting down with that person, really talking with them and trying to get them to open up to you a little bit. I have no problem sometimes saying to people, hey, we're real busy in the shop right now. Can we really help you? Is there something you need? And letting them know that not only are you busy, but you value their time too. You don't want to waste their time. So that's usually what I do, is I just try to qualify right off the bat. How interested are they? What's really happening in their life? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. That's
okay.
helpful.
I want to just touch back on creating events. We've got a lot of people in our area that are woodworkers or cabinet makers, whatever, but don't be afraid to create events in other areas, like going to the local tech school and doing an event for the woodworkers there. Making yourself out there in the paper that you're helping that way, so people keep seeing your name where they're hanging out. Just move on here a little bit to what you do when you've got these people qualified, like your friend that asked our question about how do you find these people and what happens once you've qualified them. You really need to use a system. There's all kinds of systems out there. The computer systems, Outlook on Microsoft, Act is a program, Salesforce, Batchbook is one I use, Batchbook.com. There's all kinds of paper systems, too, for some of our Amish customers I see that have been online here. The whole key to a system is tracking prospects. Sales are created in steps. So moving a prospect through those steps makes a sale. And so you need to track them so that you can follow each one of those steps. Whether you use a paper system, which is just 3x5 cards, or account binders or tickler files. We're getting a little reverberation in the background, folks. Don't forget to mute. That's star 6. Whatever you're doing, you're trying to create that step. So one of the things we want to do is set up a file system that we can work with, so we know where our customers are. Because if we're going to keep in touch with them to build word of mouth, we need to have those keep track things. The tickler file here is the first step. The tickler file is one where when you're looking at a customer, you just want to write a note that says what you need to follow up with them on. So a tickler file is a 1 through 31 dates file that you use to say, I'm going to follow up with this person in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So I often put a tickler note in for, let's say I talked to somebody today and they said in 2 weeks from now they want to come back and look at my cabinet door selection. I'll put a note in 2 weeks from now saying, come back and give this person a call and see if they want to come in and see the doors. It just keeps you in touch with them as you go. Customer type and interest. I usually separate the types of customers I have so I know who they are, what type they are, and how interested they are. So in my business, we might use architects and designers as one customer type. Homeowners is another customer type. That helps us when we see events out there that we might want to promote to them. We can pull them by customer type also. And interest, what type of product were they interested in? Do they want woodworking, a hope chest? Do they want whatever? So our next step is, of course, to use one calendar. If you have 2 or 3 calendars, one on the computer, one on your phone, one on the wall, you lose track of things. Remember to create these steps to follow up with people. And creating steps is really simple. Each step is logical. For example, we're going to do a tickler file. Let's say that someone came into us and wanted us to build a hope chest for them. We built that hope chest for them, and then we sent them a thank you note after it was built and they liked it. And then the next step we did is we've got to find something else to build for them. So the hope chest was, let's say, for their daughter's wedding. So in 6 months, we sent them a note saying, hope that the chest is working well for you. It all went well. By the way, did you know we also make baby furniture or cribs or something? So you want to find logical things that you can keep in touch with these folks on as you move through steps. An example would be if they come visit your showroom, then the next step might be getting a home visit to design. The next step after that might be getting a ballpark quote to them. And after that, a door choice or color choice or whatever. So make sure that you can find ways to create steps so you have something to follow up on. When building word of mouth, the other best thing we really need to work on is lots of people think that they need to find a sales rep to help them. And really, you are the best rep, especially in our custom woodworking businesses where we're usually small businesses. We know the product the best. We have the deal-making powers to decide whether we want to go up or down in the sale. Your enthusiasm for your product is going to be stronger than any hired person you put on. And you've got personal success stories you can talk about with people. You can say to them, hey, there's something worthwhile here. And you can also give your personal guarantee on any project you do. Now, a lot of us might be afraid to be salespeople. But remember that you're still the best rep out there. You're the person that they want to talk to, especially in custom woodworking. So I hope that makes sense to folks. How are we doing on our poll questions there? Bill, anything else we need to add in?
I think we're doing okay. I think if we just keep moving ahead, and we'll ask some questions of our audience at the end. But folks, if you have questions that you'd like addressed at the end, be sure to enter them on your screen, and then we'll have Rick answer as time permits at the end.
Okay, great. The next slide talks about preparing to sell. And I just want folks to be aware that to build word of mouth, you also have to be ready to sell these folks. Because if you're not, the word of mouth you're going to get is that these folks don't know what they're doing. And I'm going to give you a brief just story to tell you about how this works. We have a company in the past that made chlorine handles for us, like door handles, pulls and things. And when they first came to us, it was a really great idea. And what we found was that we got an order immediately for 10,000 handles. Well, we went back to the guy, and it took 4 weeks and 6 weeks and 8 weeks, and we never got the order built. So we asked him what was going on, and he said, well, I've been making these handles out of scrap. I wasn't ready to price these out of finished product. So now I'm not sure how to make the product. So you have to be prepared to sell. Whether the time needed to make the product or the people you need, whether it's figuring out your price ahead of time, or how you're going to ship it, directions to your place or directions to assemble it, getting testimonials together from other people that have used your product so that you have something you can give to people right away or that's going to be on your social media, Facebook or on your Angie's List type of thing. Having samples ready to show them of colors or finished products. Estimates of your own, like if you get an order for 50 of these, how long does it take you to make them? And who's the target customer for this? Who buys your product the most? And the best way to find some of these things out, or the target customer, is to ask past customers. Why did they buy from you? What was the reason they worked with you? And how did they find you? So that you know in the future what to do and how to find your next person that you've got. If you still need to think about getting sales help instead of doing this yourself, There's a lot of things you can do, but one thing to do is make your product a concrete idea. Think about people in our woodworking industry like doors and drawers or cab parts or fast cap. They say what they do. It's a concrete idea that somebody else could sell for you well. If you've got an open concept like we do anything in woodworking, then it's hard for people to understand what you really build and do. When you say we do anything, it means they remember nothing. So if you're going to get sales help, you're going to promote a product, have a serious concrete product idea that you can do. That's the best way to get people to do the next job for you. You also have to look at what type of person you'd want if you need a salesperson, whether you want a farmer or a hunter. And we put this somewhat blandly here and labeled them. You can get a mix of both. But, of course, a farmer maintains what you've got and grows the existing business, while a hunter goes out and finds new things. You can reward either side of that, farming or hunting in a sense, and that's where that person will develop. But an inside person's more of a farmer and an outside person's more of a hunter, if that makes sense. Just a few follow-ups here near the end. Since we had a half an hour here, we want to talk about this. One is we want you to realize your unique strength that sets you apart from your competition. If you just say, we have free quotes and free designs and custom woodwork, that's what everybody does. That's just what it takes to get to the party. You've got to decide what's unique about what you do. We also want to create that single memorable sentence that's easy to say. Something that you can say if you are asked quickly, what do you do? What do you make? Something you can put in their head that they'll remember. We want to build your product and that sentence and everything you're doing on your customer's needs, not on your needs. It's all based on what they think and what they want to buy. And we want, lastly, for you to keep track to keep up. You've got to keep track of what you've done and who you've talked to and where you've been, because those types of things are what you'll learn from that you can put the next thing up. So I was going to turn this over back to Bill. Bill, are you there?
Yep, I am.
Okay.
We saw early in our presentation that quite a bit of the way that woodworkers market and small businesses in general market is through word of mouth. But the web is also very important. So we'd like to find out from you, and we'll be putting a question up on your screen. How do you market? Are you using websites to market? Do you have a custom website? Do you use Facebook, or no website at all?
You mean my company,
Put that polling question up for you.
Oh, okay. You mean for everybody else, the applicant, the people listening. Okay.
And we have a second question. Well, this one I think went up first. We want to find out how you get sales. Do you get them through direct to the consumer, through other contractors, through architects and designers, or by wholesale and retail? So do you sell direct, or are you selling through another agent? And there's 4 choices for you to answer. Okay. And just go ahead and answer those, and we can, while people are responding to that, we can also look at some of the questions that have been coming in here. One question that someone typed in was asking about what happens if your job gets a bad rap in town, and how do you contend with that? This person noted that he had put in some cabinets, and then after 2 years, the finish started to flake. So the client complained to the neighbors, and the word got around that he wasn't a good company to use. How do you deal with that kind of getting a bad rap?
It hurts. They say that on a good job, somebody will tell one person, and a bad job, they'll tell 10 people. So it takes a while to really get around that. And the best way to do it is to work with that person that, of course, had the bad finished cabinets, because the only thing you can do is get them to say that, yes, this happened, but they took care of it right away. They came in, they took care of the cabinets, they came in, they took care of the problem. When there was something wrong, they dealt with it. And that's what you want to start promoting to that person.
Okay, so sometimes you have to go above and beyond.
Yes.
Okay. So
And
we have another
because
question up here, a polling question for the audience. Does your firm have a full-time sales rep, yes or no? And we'll take a minute to let people answer that. And then Chris writes in asking if copies of these slides will be available, and I believe that's the case. This webcast will be up at the site, so if you want to tell your friends, go ahead and watch it. It'll be up there for several months, and you will be able to get the slides from it by going online at woodworkingnetwork.com/webcast. Here's another question someone has sent in. What's the best approach, having a salesperson on staff or working with a rep who might be selling for other companies? What's your experience with that, Rick?
Well, I'm biased because I'm a rep, but let me throw the choices to this person. If you have your own person that's employed by you, then they're a factory person and they're somewhat under your control. You can decide where they're going and what they're doing for you. But at the same time, you have all their cost and overhead. If the rep that you've got out there is calling on the type of customers you want to get to, that rep will have immediate access to those folks. So they'll get you turned around faster and get you started faster. But either way you do it, both of them have to make a living wage at it. The rep might be cheaper at the start, but in the long run, they're going to want to make enough income from your line to support themselves also. So either way you do it, you've got to be able to get these folks at a point where they can make some money at it. Otherwise, it won't pay off in the long run.
All right. We got another Chris who's written in and asks, how often should you follow up on a qualified lead if you don't get that first order?
I base it on the type of person or response. What I try to do is if I can't get to the person, then I continue to follow up until I can get to them. But you might get stuck in voicemail hell where you dial their number and you get a voicemail and you never get to them. I pretty much do one or two calls, and then on the third one I'll leave a note saying, hey, I don't mean to pester you. I just wanted you to know we're really interested in the business. You know we're out here. If we can help, let us know. Here's my number. And then about a month or so later, I'll send them my brochure again with a letter so that I know they've got it in their hands. And after that, nowadays you kind of have to let it go. They've moved on.
Okay. Now, we have time for one question if there are any questions out there. We're fielding them here.
I just wanted to let people know I see that screen we have up, Bill. That's my old cell number on there. I apologize. The next screen had the updated information. But you can go to my website if you need me and leave me any questions you want, and I'll be happy to answer them for you at any time.
Okay. All right. We've got a question from Janine. What's the most common type of compensation structure for an outside sales rep?
For an outside sales rep, again, it's based on, I think you're talking about your own type of person that you have. It's based on giving them a living wage to get by as a base, but you want to give them enough incentive that they go on and grow the business. So you don't want to make the commission so strong that they kill you, but at the same time you want it big enough that they've got incentive to build.
Okay. Now, if that will wrap up the questions for the moment, but
we order it from one of the distributors, but yeah. Okay.
So,
okay.
Don't forget.
Question on the phone?
Yeah, that's not me.
Okay. All right. Well, if you have questions, it's best to type them in here, and Rick can address them afterwards.
Okay.
And we can also, let your friends know that this webcast will be up on the site, and they'll be able to submit questions there as well.
Right. Good. Thanks, folks.
Okay.
All right. And okay. Maybe Ricky, can you move our slides forward for us?
Sure. I'm sorry. I didn't know that it was under. Okay. Just that's my right phone number and right web address if you need it. You can see it there. woodreps@gmail.com. If you have any other questions, you also, Bill, you want to talk about the invitations?
Yeah. Woodworking Network will be running a design portfolio competition, our annual competition, and we're accepting entries now through October 27th. So please visit the site and enter that. We want to thank our sponsors, Epilogue Laser and Decorative Specialties, that made today's event possible. And we're really glad that they were here with us, and please visit their sites. And thank you for attending. We have upcoming webcasts, one on finishing technology advances, October 26th. And we'll also have an exciting one on the Wood 100 Strategies for Success, November 30th. You can find out more about those at woodworkingnetwork.com/webcast. Thanks for attending, everyone.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you again for joining us today. Concludes today's webinar. You may now disconnect.
The leader has disconnected all lines. You will now be disconnected.